Hey there, just trying something new with a request made by some of the viewers here in our community, ranking my personal top 10 favorite guitar players of all time. So let me know what you think of this sort of thing with a like and a comment either during or after the video. And let's get right into it, starting with number 10, Mr. Jerry Cantrell. Jerry is one of those super soulful, unique riff writers, great parts, amazing melodies, amazing solos, amazing vocalist, complements the singing of the late great Lane Staley so well. And he's just got one of those styles where he doesn't have to shred all over the place, but you just feel his solos. You can sing his solos. I love that so much. He's been such a huge influence on me and Chimera for so long in so many ways and on so many people. I was one of those guys who hated grunge when it hit, like in the mid to late 90s, as I felt that it was kind of like killing metal, at least the metal that I was seeing on MTV and stuff. The videos that I wanted to see all of a sudden became videos from, Soundgarden and Aliceinchains and Stone Temple Pilots, Nirvana, Mudhoney, all this kind of stuff, which now I totally love, but at the time I resented. But, come early 2000s and I start discovering this stuff. Late to the game and just a game changer. Dirt, Jar of Flies, just all that stuff. Jerry Cantrell, he's totally the man. It's awesome that he's still going and creating great records and that those guys are still playing. But huge influence on me coming in my top 10, Mr. Jerry Cantrell. By the way, what's the point of this? Most of you guys who are watching this video are probably familiar with me and my work and what I like because it's, been saying it for years, all the bands and guitar players that I love and everything. But I think it's about just what we guitar players and lovers of music love, and that's sharing the music that we love with others. Maybe there's a guy out there who's never heard of Aliceinchains. So that's what this is, so that hopefully I can share my passion for these players with somebody who's maybe never heard of them, or maybe just to share some knowledge about me that you didn't know. The point is for me to tell a friend, and you to tell a friend, and then they'll tell two friends, and they'll tell two friends, and they'll tell two friends, and so on and so on. Coming in at number 9, Slash, another super soulful player that you could sing all his solos. Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City, Welcome to the Jungle, just all amazing classic solos, an amazing riff writer. So just bluesy, unique, again, complements a vocalist really well, and I think a lot of great guitar players do that. They write music with vocals in mind, and obviously Slash does that, and Axl and him just have a great chemistry. But I remember the first time I ever heard Paradise City. I was in 3rd grade, had gone to sleep for the night. I was supposed to be, in bed asleep, but I had a little radio with the rock station on, just kind of under my pillow, and I was listening, and the song Paradise City came on. Man, and those opening chords, that progression with those arpeggiated chords and stuff. And then as I became aware of Guns N' Roses, then I started seeing their videos on MTV. The Paradise City video was happening on MTV, and just seeing them in that stadium, they were having such a good time. They look so cool. Obviously, a lot of people were talking about Guns N' Roses right at that time, and it was just a really cool thing. And I got just super into Slash's playing and the soulfulness, the just accessibility of it. You could play some of that stuff because it wasn't just super crazy. It was just always perfectly in the pocket and designed so well. So Slash, I'm sorry to say that you're number 9, should be lower on that list, higher, lower, depending on how you think about it. But since we're moving from 10 down to 1, the 2 rock guitarists on my list, Slash and Jerry, are 9 and 10 because everything else is pretty much saved for heavy metal, which is my true passion. That being said, let's go into number 8 with the mighty Andreas Kisser of Sepultura. Andreas, I've talked about him a lot recently because I got one of those new Jackson soloists, one of Andreas' signatures. I don't know if you guys have seen this in my videos. This thing, so sick, right? Anyways, so I've been talking a lot about Andreas and Sepultura lately for good means. It's one of those things where I'm going to spoil it right now that Max Cavalera is number 7 on my list, but I'll get into him in a sec. But we're at number 8 with Andreas, and it's kind of like, I don't know who writes a lot of those riffs. Is it more Andreas? Is it more Max? And I'm talking about the classic riffs, the ones that I like from the first record up to Roots specifically Chaos AD and Arise. How can you leave out Beneath the Remains though too? So many amazing riffs, and I don't know who's responsible for a lot of those. Was it those guys together? Because a lot of time that's what it takes. It takes two guitarists. Like one guitarist on his own doesn't often stand out as much as two together in certain situations, which we'll get into in a moment too. I love one guitar player bands as well, but anyways, where there's a combo of guitarists, sometimes it's the combination of their playing that makes those great songs, those great riffs and stuff. But Andreas' soloing is one thing I wanted to talk about. I remember the first Sepultura song I ever heard was Biotech off the Chaos AD record, and he's got that one part where it goes super high. And I've always just loved that and wondered, how did he get up that high? And me and my friends used to joke around 8th, 9th grade, that he must have had like a 30 fret guitar. They could get up just super high to hit that note. I don't know if he was using a whammy pedal or what to get that, but it was super cool. But so many great solos on that record. And he's just got a sound. He's another one of those players where he's just not like shredding all over in the typical style you'd think of. He's not playing solos like in a traditional way. Anyways, I just did a little short on one of my favorite Sepultura songs off the Arise album called Under Siege, where I'm playing this badass part. But check out the solo in that song if you're unfamiliar. It's just got such a cool, just dissonant sound to it, diabolic, something about it like that, but it's perfect, Mass Hypnosis. I know I've talked to a lot of you guys just in the comments about the Mass Hypnosis solos. So amazing, so incredible. Just great solos all over the place, and he's still going strong, although Sepultura is supposedly now on their last tour, but he's just a monster, a legend in the community for all those riffs and solos. But let's move on to number 7. His fellow gunslinger, Max Cavalera, who is a little bit higher on the list because I'm going to assume, because it was I feel like it's more Max's band at that time during those classic records. Maybe it really was Andreas's though, and that's why he's continued to carry the torch. Who knows what really is going on in that camp with all that? There's lots of stories, but for those of you that don't know, the Cavalera brothers left Sepultura, and we're all under the impression that the Cavalera brothers, that Sepultura was their band. But after they left the band, I think after the Roots record, at least Max did, maybe Igor, his brother, went on a little while longer with it, but then Andreas has continued with the band for years and years. But I digress. Max Cavalera though, the king, dude, you go back, all that early stuff, starting with Schizophrenia, obviously before that too, but I think Schizophrenia is where you started seeing more of their live performances. You can find those performances on YouTube and stuff, and they started just becoming more popular and more, not in the mainstream, but you know what I'm saying, just becoming more popular. So that's when I think really people started taking notice of them, maybe outside of Brazil and things like that, on the Schizophrenia record. And then when Beneath the Remains hit, that just really solidified it. I think they really came into their own with their sound and the songwriting and the riffing and the vocals from Max Cavalera. And I really respect guys like Max who play guitar and sing at the same time. How tough can that be? And there's only certain dudes, Rob Flynn, James Hetfield, stuff like that pull that off just so incredibly as these guys do. And Max is one of those guys. Some of the dopest riffs, how they slowed it down just to the extreme groove on Chaos AD, and that really hit home for guys like me at a young age that just love that dun, 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 moving slowly in the set. Nomad, so many great songs. So Max, I know there wouldn't be a Sepultura without you. So that's why you're on my top 10 of favorite guitar players of all time. 6, Dimebag. Come on, he's on everybody's list. One of the greatest metal virtuosos of all time. I think he's the guy in heavy metal that makes it look so easy. He could just crawl out of bed with, a 10,000 pound hangover on him, which I've seen, as a matter of fact, and pick up the guitar and just shred it. I told a story here on the channel where they were playing with Damage Plan over in Germany. We were doing a show with them, and it was 10 o'clock in the morning. You could tell Dimebag was super hungover. The line I always say is he was not Dimebag from the videos. He was always super happy, doing shots and everything. This was Dimebag in the morning, hungover as painful, but got on stage with Damage Plan and turned into Dimebag like that. He turned it on and just tore it up exactly like you'd expect him to. And it's just like great athletes or whatever, they could just make something amazing look so easy, so effortless, because they are just so amazing. And I love too seeing early videos of Dimebag, like pre-Pantera. There's stuff you can find on YouTube of just in some club just shredding, and he's so amazing even back then. You hear the Kiss in him and the Eddie Van Halen and his note choices and cool styles and amazing blues and stuff. And then to go on, throughout Pantera's career, especially when they started exploding on Vulgar, far beyond. Those riffs, those songs, his chemistry with his brother beyond the drums, and Phil. I mean, that whole band had such an incredible chemistry, and his guitar playing as a one guitar player band, which is so cool. He was able to do it. And a lot of time I say, like, live, maybe on a record he'll record a rhythm track behind a solo here and there, but live that's not there, and it's just Rex behind that solo live. And no one ever says, man, I was really missing that rhythm guitar part that I'm used to hearing on the record when I went and saw him live. No one says that, because Dime can just carry whatever he wants to carry. He could carry the part with no rhythm guitars, he can get rid of the bass, whatever, and still you're just in awe of the guy because his playing is so flawless. And I'm going to mention one other guy that's like this. You just never hear him mess up. You see in the videos, what's that famous part where he's like, bottle of Crown, bottle of Cuervo, bottle of Jaeger, still going. And he just shreds it up like, man, I have a few shots and I sound like shit. 100% can admit that. But guys like this, they're just invincible, legendary, godlike, and I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Dimebag, he's a god. Number 5 on my list, EVH, the man. I think, in my opinion, Eddie Van Halen is the greatest guitar player of all time. That's just my personal opinion. He's not number 1 on my list of like my favorites, but I still think he's the greatest player of all time. And he's another one of those guys where I've never heard him mess up. I've watched hundreds of videos of him playing, seen him a couple times live, but I've watched hundreds of videos of him on YouTube, and I've never seen the guy mess up. He plays perfectly because it's just comes so naturally to him. Like Dimebag, EVH, I think I said this, I think is Dimebag's biggest influence, and it shows. And they just have a lot of that same character. They have a lot of that, like, just live improv stuff with cool little tricks, whammy bars, harmonics, all these squeals and everything like that they just rip in live in parts, and it just sounds great. I think other bands and guitar players sometimes try to do that, and you don't want it. You want to hear what they did. Kirk Hammett, there's a lot of debate about that going on right now. People want to hear the solos from the records, but yet Kirk is like fighting that, saying, I just want to improv each night or whatever. Now, some people like that. I personally don't. I want to hear what I'm used to hearing and what I expect to hear on the record. But with Eddie, it's so tastefully improv, and you still hear the solo that you're expecting to hear. You still expect to hear those riffs, and it's new tricks every night. If you watch back-to-back concerts from their tours, he's just doing new tricks all the time from what he's feeling and how he's interacting with the band and the crowd and whatever the song is and stuff. It's just amazing. Stuff like that doesn't come around often, obviously. Eddie Van Halen. Number 4 on my list of favorite guitarists, Marty Friedman. Man, just his exotic sound. He's got these older, guitar instructional DVDs or VHSs that have been put online now that you can watch on YouTube. And there's one that I came across years ago that I absolutely loved. I've watched it dozens of times now, where it's like clean exotic soloing. So he's doing all his like cool sounding exotic stuff, all those notes and bends that only Marty can do, or just, you associate with Marty. But he's doing it all clean, so there's no masking of distortion or anything like that, and it is super clean and just wonderful to listen to, and I got obsessed with watching that. And he's one of those players, like I've said many times, where I could just never master his stuff. Like, I love the sound of it. Same with EVH and same with Dimebag, where their playing for some reason is just out of my wheelhouse. I love all their stuff, and I know every note in my mind from every record that I love, but I just never really got into playing a lot of that stuff too much. Like Marty's stuff, it was just too difficult for me, but I absolutely love it. And then he comes in right behind Dave. Another one of those examples, kind of like Andreas and Max, where Dave Mustaine, my number 3 greatest guitar player of all time on my list. And a lot of that has to do with, not only is Dave a super cool soloist, certainly more just traditional and kind of like standard as opposed to like Marty or a lot of the other guitar players in Megadeth, but it's so impactful. All the notes, in my opinion, are just great and memorable and fit the song so well with those amazing riffs he writes. Super cool, interesting, melodic riffs across the records that we all love so much. I got obsessed with this other video. It's Megadeth in like Essen, is that Germany or Austria, something like that, I forget. But, you just watch Dave during the So Far So Good So What tour, which I think is a big part of his prime. And you see him playing and singing. There's another one of those guys that can sing and play that I have huge respect for. Well, he's playing just intricate stuff, crazy hard riffs and singing all that. And then he's playing like almost all the solos live. And I think he's the epitome of one of those like kind of show-off guitarists in a good way that that just always wants to solo and be in the spotlight, And he did that. He made that for himself. And this video, and I recommend everybody watch this. I'll link it below. But especially if you're a fan of that era, the So Far So Good So What, which I am, and before. So Peace Sells. It hadn't hit Rust in Peace yet. But there's one thing I actually wanted to mention about Marty that I thought was super cool. I remember reading this article when I was young in some Guitar Player magazine, where Dave was talking about Marty's auditions and how they were having the auditions for new guitar players for Rust in Peace. Like, it was something like this. I'm just making these numbers up right now, but so they had a bunch of different guitar players come into audition, Marty being one of them, and you had to know, let's say, 5 songs, and I think you got to choose them, or maybe there was a list or whatever. Anyways, Marty showed up and knew like 10. So immediately he scored extra points by doing extra homework. And then going on, he got the gig, obviously. And during the recording of Rust in Peace, I heard he had to play in a sling the whole time just because he had been practicing so much. I absolutely love that. I love stories like that. I love hearing about devotion, dedication, discipline, and just putting in the work that it takes to get gigs like that, to be a Megadeth guitar player and then go on to make such amazing music that they did together. But back to Dave, still just the mastermind of all that and all he's done with Megadeth over the years. So many riffs that I absolutely love, and his playing is kind of in my wheelhouse. My style a lot is derived from Dave's because I could do that stuff, and it's just sounded so good to me. So many great riffs. My favorite record is Countdown to Extinction. I also love Rust in Peace and Euthanasia. Really what I consider, the best era with Menza and Friedman, Elfson and Mustaine. But I also love the stuff before that. I kind of got out of them afterwards, really after Euthanasia, I think. I know Marty was on another record or two. I forget, Cryptic Writing, something like that. But I'd kind of gotten out of them and was just doing my own thing at that point. But Dave Mustaine, just obviously just one of the greatest metal legends there is. On to number 2. Arguably the greatest metal legend to ever live, James Hetfield, the king of amazing music that just, where do you start? I mean, just open the door for metal music for guys like me and so many of us out there. Just with Metallica's success and fantastic songwriting that's inspired so many of us. Everybody loves Metallica, I mean, I say that broadly, of course, but I think it's a valid generalization, right? I mean, so many of us, especially if you're, anywhere around my age, you grew up listening to Metallica, and those albums, just the songwriting, the riffs, even if you're not a guitar player, there's so much to love about the band. But if you are a guitar player, James is the man. That energy he had through all those years. Everybody obviously talks about his down picking, his classical playing, his soloing. Nothing Else Matters. There's a few. You can rattle off a few tunes that he solos in, but that's the one that comes to mind for me right now. I always love that video where he flicks the pickup in the air, at the end. So just his playing and his songwriting and everything like that, I would say, is what I attribute most to my style. I certainly would not exist as a metal guitar player without Metallica and James Hetfield and all that his songwriting taught me. Those videos, a year and a half of the life of, obviously, stuff like that taught Chimera, things about the studio and expectations to have, listening to Bob Rock and those guys interact. And then it kind of all got ruined when Some Kind of Monster came around, that movie, seeing that different side of them and stuff like that. It was I feel like that was a veil that shouldn't have been pulled back, but whatever. So my opinion of Metallica kind of changed after that, but just being real. But still, James, I just saw them recently in Detroit, and they were on fire. I could go on and on and on and on, but I won't. I'll get to number 1, Kirk Hammett. And again, Kirk Hammett wouldn't be Kirk Hammett without James. It's another one of those duos, Andreas and Max, Dave and Marty. And there's so many bands here, too, that I'm not even going to be able to mention that I love. The Slayer guys, the Cannibal guys, Tom Morello from Rage, his creativity and groove. Trey from Morbid. I've got so many other, I just had to narrow this down to 10, and it was super difficult. But Kirk Hammett, his soloing inspired me in every single way. And I know if you know my music, you hear that 100%. Kirk's playing is great, and I know he's written a lot of great riffs for Metallica too, and just that chemistry that those guys had on stage when you watch those live shows when they were on fire, from Kill 'Em All on, just incredible. And one reason he stands out so well for me is because his playing was in my wheelhouse, like I keep talking about. So I just gravitated towards that more, you know, those pentatonic licks that Kirk does, the wah stuff. I love all that. I think it's in like either the Black Album tab book or like the Black Album like tour book, like a tour program I got. It was funny, like when you first open it up, all it is a bunch of negative reviews of Kirk's playing on the Black Album. Oh, he's just, you know, bluesy jerking off the whole time, doesn't do anything besides the pentatonic stuff. Oh, there's just wah in every song, masking his playing, blah blah blah, just talking shit in all these, you know, from Billboard and Kerrang and whatever, you know, all these negative reviews. Everybody wanted to hate on the Black Album when it came out. They sold out, all this kind of stuff. And then you turn the page and it's them standing there on a stage, you know, with like 100,000 people behind them at Download, maybe more, that huge festival in Russia or whatever. I don't know, you know, but it just, they don't even have to say anything. They put those negative comments in their own book for you to see and then turn the page and it's just them on stage like, now what? I loved that. And it's so true, you know? I don't know why people want to hate, but his playing is fantastic. Suits the music so well. Those solos that from back in the day that we all know so well, like the stuff over James Clean stuff, whether it's Sanitarium, Fade to Black, One, all those little breaks kind of in between verses or after choruses where they do some, you know, those are just so rad. And one other big point I'll say about Kirk is that a lot of people may have heard me say that anybody, if they put their mind to it, can play Kirk's solos, but only Kirk was able to write those solos. And when it comes down to it, to me, fantastic guitar players write amazing music. Anybody that tries hard enough can shred like Yngwie if you try hard enough, but not everybody can be a great riff, solo, and songwriter, has the ear for great melody and things like that. And for me, Kirk is one of those guys, and he's at the top of my list. Another one, I wouldn't be sitting here talking about all this, whether you care or not, if it wasn't for Kirk Hammett. So that's going to do it for the top 10. Again, please let me know if you want more of this kind of stuff. I can do more. I never would have thought about this sort of thing, but it was a suggestion from one of the members in my beautiful Patreon community, which I recommend you check out. We're doing all sorts of cool stuff over there, talking about just all this kind of stuff. You know, I'm asking for video ideas over there, and there's lots of other perks. So check that out at patreon.com/RobArnoldWorld if you'd like to help support the channel. There's no doubt this video is going to get demonetized because of the audio, samples that I'm playing throughout here. So if you'd like to support the channel in any way, the simplest thing you can do is make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're not already. Give the video a like and a comment. Those help the algorithm. You guys know, you hear this from everybody. You know how it works and stuff. But if you wanted to take it further, please check out my Patreon campaign. Tons of guitar tabs in there, or my guitar instructional DVD right now shipping with 10 free guitar picks. So if you did enjoy it, you know what to do. Come back and see me again. Thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next one.